Merhaba. Çok kritik bir şeyler oluyor Kanada-Türkiye hattında. Hem siyaseten ikili ilişkilerde hem de ekonomi, yatırım, ticaret, savunma sanayi, madenler ve mineraller gibi konularda böyle taşları yerinden oynatacak, dengeleri değiştirecek yeni bir dönem aralanıyor. Serbest Ticaret Anlaşması ön görüşmeleriyle birlikte. Sorulacak çok soru var, değil mi? İşte bu yüzden Kanada'nın Uluslararası Ticaret Bakanı Sidhu konuğum. Zamanımız biraz kısıtlı olabilir. Bakalım hangi soruları yetiştirebileceğim bu röportaja ve bakalım Bakan Sidhu'dan hangi cevaplar bizim sorularımıza yetişebilecek. And here I have International Trade Minister of Canada, Sidhu. Thank you for joining me, Minister Sidhu.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk about the Canada-Turkey relationship today.
Yeah, you as the International Trade Minister of Canada and Turkish Trade Minister Ömer Bolat announced exploratory discussions toward a formal trade agreement, which will change a lot, right? So I want to start, Minister. It's been actually 10 years that the last attempt at a free trade agreement between Turkey and Canada completely stalled. What actually makes this time around structurally different? Like, what are the new promises?
Yeah.
And I really want to talk about, frankly, what specific qualities and economic capacities and maybe strategic strength of Turkey is Canada relying on right now to anchor this very agreement?
It's a great question. And as you know, from 10 years ago, the world has changed quite a bit. International trade has changed quite a bit. You're seeing the shifts. I spent 13 years in the private sector facilitating international trade before politics. And so back then it was, all about the US and what more can we do with the US. The US is still an important trading partner to Canada, but we've made a commitment to Canadians that we will diversify our trading partners. And this is where, it's important to grow our relationship with Turkey. They're a NATO partner, a NATO ally, and we're finding, great economic opportunities. Turkey needs more nuclear energy. Guess who has the best infrastructure and nuclear technology in the world? That's Canada through our CANDU technology. In Ontario alone, close to 90,000 workers work in the nuclear sector. And so we've agreed to have discussions on that, but also on other sectors of focus. You talk about aerospace. Turkey is looking to buy hundreds of more airplanes. You look at clean technology, agriculture, agri-foods, defense, cooperation as well in terms of industrial capacity. And so we're exploring a lot of opportunities. I think it's important to also note that when you look at our exports to Turkey right now, over 60% of them have duties on them right now. And so there's room to move in terms of duty rates. In terms of our overall exports that go to Turkey, there's about, the duty rates is high, sometimes, 15, 20%. We need to be able to talk about that, be able to make sure that our consumers, our businesses are able to get preferential treatment to do more trade, because there's room to grow. And this is what I've heard from Canadians. I've heard this from Turkish Canadians, that we should be doing more with Turkey. And so this is feedback that we've taken back, and we've worked with the business sector as well to see what they would like to see in conversations with Turkey on economic opportunities.
I wonder if this partnership offers Canada actually a meaningful economic hedge to reduce the country's reliance on the US market right now.
Well, what I would say is from what we've done, I was sworn in as trade minister last year in May, and the prime minister had made a commitment to Canadians that we diversify our trading partners, and we're moving in the right direction. Our non-U.S. exports are up by 17% just in goods alone last year. That's an additional $33 billion in non-U.S. exports to markets all around the world. If you look at the Port of Vancouver numbers, they're moving record cargo, 170 million metric tons, the Port of St. John's. And so we're moving in the right direction, but we need to be able to work with partners across the world. And Turkey is one of those partners that's very important to Canada. But the people-to-people connection is what really makes it stronger. And as you know, your own very own Turkish MP, MP Sima Khan, has been leading these efforts of really pushing more between Turkey and Canada because of our understanding about Turkey and the deep relationship that we have as Canadians between Canada and Turkey. But also flights. You need better connectivity between the two countries. This has long been an ask by the community, by the Turkish community, Turkish Canadians. And so we've expanded flights from 12 to 21 flights. I just signed off on that memo a few weeks ago with the transport minister. And so in order to do more trade, to facilitate more trade, you need more connectivity. And so flights plays a very important role in that.
Are you going to a totally open skies approach, maybe?
Not right now. We've finally agreed to go from 12 to 21 flights, so that will be a step in the right direction. There's a huge demand from Canadians that want to travel to Turkey for tourism, as you know. It's a beautiful country, and so we need to make sure we open up opportunities for Canadians, but also for the Turkish community to connect and do more business together.
But there is also protectionism, especially, which is like sort of pushed by Air Canada, because it was always Air Canada making the government take that step back. So do you think that protectionism will also go on? Or
well, look, I've already approved the flights with the transport minister. So it's already been approved from 12 to 21 flights. And so and now there'll be more flights in the coming months and years ahead. I know Turkey is looking for more airplanes as the air traffic goes up. And guess who makes the best aircrafts in the world? That's us in Canada. We have Airbus in Quebec that makes the A220s. We have Bombardier, but we also have de Havilland out in Alberta that makes the Dash 8s. And so we have close to 225,000, Canadian workers in that sector alone. And so there's a lot to do together. We do know that even in the defense sector alone, we can learn from the industrial capacity that Turkey has, and how can we do more things together? I think that's what we're exploring right now.
Minister, we know that Turkey's domestic political landscape and regional foreign policy clashes at times with Ottawa. How do you square a push for a free trade agreement with Prime Minister Carney's value-based realism approach?
Well, I think Prime Minister has been clear. If you look at the Prime Minister's speech from Davos, where the Prime Minister mentioned that middle powers need to work together more often than not. And, we see the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. And so as middle powers, we are looking forward to working with partners across the world, including our partners in Turkey. And it's a pragmatic approach. We will continue to work with partners where we need to be able to constructively work together. But you can't constructively work together unless you're having conversations. So this is what these conversations are for, to really find areas of opportunity. Mutual prosperity is very important because you need both countries to benefit from trade agreements. And so this is why we've launched exploratory discussions on a possible free trade agreement.
You know what? Just last week, during a Q&A with the Prime Minister, he told me that Turkey is an incredibly important strategic ally. So we can assume that Turkey is that strategic partner for you, for your ministry as well. So my question will be that when it comes to critical partners like Turkey, is Canada and you essentially prioritizing market diversification over ideological alignments?
No, I would say it's a step-by-step approach. It's a pragmatic approach of how can we bring mutual prosperity to our citizens? Where can we align? Where do we not align? It's about having those conversations and being very open about it. And so that's the approach our government has taken, and it's working. You saw what we did in China. You saw what we're doing in India, what we're doing across the Indo-Pacific, but across the European Union, we're working with partners. And it's important to note, within NATO, Turkey is a strategic ally. Frankly, they're a NATO partner. NATO has identified 12 critical minerals needed for defense and manufacturing. Canada has 10 of the 12. And so we're very well positioned to help our NATO allies fulfill some of those needs, but also at a time where supply chains are being constrained, trade is being shifted. People are looking to Canada as a stable, reliable partner, especially industries around the world. And that's what Canada presents at this time of uncertainty. And this is why my phone's been ringing as a trade minister of Canada, saying we want to do more with Canada. We want to do more trade, whether it's energy, whether it's mining, whether it's goods trade, whether it's services, whether it's education. This is kind of all the options that we're exploring, and it's working because the world wants more certainty. And you're seeing that in our trade numbers, $33 billion of non-U.S. exports, an increase of $33 billion. You saw the trade surplus of $2.3 billion. It's the first trade surplus of this level since January 2025. That's more exports of energy, more exports of agriculture goods. And so we're moving in the right direction.
So then let's come to your clean energy portfolio. I know that you are very enthusiastic about it. So Canada is actively marketing CANDU nuclear technology right now, and Turkey is highly interested in. So, do you think that this is just a quick win for Canadian industry, or is Canada actually ready to offer long-term investment guarantees to turn Turkey into a core economic ally in that region?
No, this is a long-term objective. As you know, nuclear plants are not built overnight. They take many, many years of planning and processes. And so the conversation around renewables, around nuclear energy is very real with Canada and many partners around the world. In order to power these nuclear power plants, you need a steady supply of uranium. Canada is top 3 in the world for our uranium supplies. And so you need uranium to power those power plants. And so this is why people are looking to Canada. But if you also look at what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz, there's a lot happening there in terms of energy and the supply constraints on energy. And so there's a conversation around how can we pivot supply chains, but how can we be more focused on renewables. And so Turkey, as you know, they want to build up by 7 gigawatts by 2035. Canada has the workers, first of all, but the technology to fulfill that need. So those conversations are continuing between CANDU and Turkey. But of course, as a government, we're pushing along on our nuclear sector because we do have a lot to offer. In fact, as you know, here in Ontario, we're building out the first commercialized SMR unit in Darlington, Ontario, which we've announced $2 billion of investments. And so even with our SMR technology, we're well ahead of all G7 countries.
So CANDU is your pearl in that sense.
Absolutely. It's CANDU. It's our uranium in Saskatchewan through Cameco and others. And so it's really a whole of government approach of we offer stability, we offer certainty. And if you want to build something in the nuclear sector, Canada has long been a player, a key player, a trusted player. And this is the conversation that we'll continue to have.
Right now, Canada is heavily promoting the mining technology and, of course, the critical minerals. But there is reality on the ground. Like over the years, Canadian associated mining giants have sparked massive public outrage in Turkey. People feel these companies operate without accountability, destroy the environment, and even cost lives. Looking at this, this backlash, actually, what is your ethical stance on these accusations?
Well, I would say we expect our Canadian companies to operate by the highest ethical standards abroad. We have the National Contact Point that conducts research and investigations on Canadian companies operating abroad. And so we expect the highest ethical standards. From my conversations in the mining sector, I'm showing a lot of appreciation, saying Canadian companies do mining more sustainably. They take the environment in hand. They look out for the workers. And so a lot of countries come to Canada to learn from us of what we can do in the mining sector. And if you look at just our mining show, PDAC in Toronto, it's the world's largest mining show. And there's a reason why the world comes to Canada to learn from our expertise. So we have a lot to offer there, especially as you see advanced manufacturing needing more critical minerals, needing more of our raw materials. Canada has a lot of those raw materials to offer to the world. And this is why you're seeing us making that pitch to our major projects office to build more mining projects, to do more in terms of making sure that workers in Canada can benefit. And so one thing I can tell you is our skilled training program, which we launched. Up to 100,000 Canadians can get skilled training in engineering, as millwrights, as plumbers. That's very important because these major projects, many of them consist of mining operations, and we want to make sure Canadians are there to build them. But at the same time, we also want to help out families because we understand the cost of living has gone up in terms of groceries. And so we want to support them with the new groceries and essential benefit. Close to 12 million Canadians are receiving that. So again, all of these big projects lead to families being supported, but also to workers getting that support to build up the skills to build these big projects in mining, in infrastructure, and in energy.
And Arab, this will have to be the last question.
But then, okay, I have to the arms embargo. Like I'm going to talk about embargo. This is very important for Turkish audience because between 2019 and 21, it didn't just hit the defense sector. It damaged overall Canada-Türkiye trade and relations. Do you honestly feel that damage is fully behind us right now. With the restrictions gone, is there a concern that Turkish buyers and authorities will be skeptical about relying on Canadian suppliers? Do you think that that trust won't be broken again?
Yeah, well, I won't speak to a decision taken by a previous government, but what I can say is this government is very pragmatic in our approach. Of course, we have the best export permitting regime in the world. The Minister of Foreign Affairs is leading on those efforts, but my job is to ensure that we continue to explore economic opportunities. And everybody knows now that Canada wants to do business with the world under this new government, and we're going to approach it pragmatically to make sure that we're exploring opportunities that align with both of our countries' values and principles.
But there is one thing you have been talking about: the people, what you are offering to the people of Canada in terms of cost of living, etc. Do you think that those principles are also reflected to your trade, into your trade, and reflected to your relationship with Turkey, especially when it comes to mining? Are you aware of that public feeling against the Canadian mining companies in Turkey? And
look, I don't think any industry is perfect. What I can say is every industry can do better, can get better. And I know a lot of our industries on the ground are learning better operational efficiencies, learning how to operate more effectively, learning from each other on mining technology. Mining is a sector that hasn't evolved as fast as other sectors in terms of technology around innovation. And I know the mining sector in Canada is making those investments. But of course, like I said before, we expect all of our Canadian companies that are operating abroad to operate with the highest ethical standards. And we want to make sure that's important to us. It's important to Canadians as we do more business abroad. We carry the flag. We're very proud of our flag. We want to make sure we protect our brand.
And what will be the rising star of this upcoming free trade agreement for you?
Well, right now we're in exploratory conversations, as you know, so we'll have more to say in the coming months. But again, there's a great benefit to both Turkey and Canada. As you know, Turkey needs more airplanes. They want more energy. Canada is looking for more defense industrial cooperation. We're looking for more partners in terms of critical minerals, in terms of energy. And so there's a win-win for everyone around the table. But again, these conversations are very early right now. But again, we're going to continue connecting our people through more flights, continue to grow these economic opportunities through more trade between Canada and Turkey. And of course, Minister Bola and I will continue to have those conversations.
No time right now?
Not right now, no.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thanks so much. Nice to see you. Take care.
Thank you. Dedik ve bitirdik röportajı. İşte Kanada'nın Türkiye ile bir serbest ticaret anlaşmasına bakışı şu anda böyle. Ön görüşmeler bu kapıyı açacak. Gerisini de hep beraber zamanla görüp masaya yatırma şansımız olacak. Yeniden görüşünceye kadar esen kalın diyorum ve bağımsız yayıncılığımı desteklemeniz için bütün beğendiklerinizi, paylaşımlarınızı ve web sitesi üzerinden aboneliklerinizi bekliyorum. Sağlıcakla kalın.